What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 video series of putting the cheapest component that I could find online into this Miata engine.
Hyper Speed Media.
Before we address the engine, we are doing a 5-speed swap. So the first thing we got to address is the power plant frame in the back of the car. We're going to swap over from the automatic into a manual power plant frame. All right, so this is the manual power plant frame. As you can see, if there's a hole right here, that's usually where the speed sensors wire harness go through, and that's how you can tell if it's a manual or not. Okay, so here's the comparison of the two power plant frame. The manual one is the one on the bottom. It's slightly longer. That's how you can tell it's manual. And also, there's a hole right here that I mentioned earlier. So this area right here, this is where you want to grind off, clean it well, grounding wire. Make sure this part is clean before you install it. As you can see, my ground wire is beat up and it's fray right here, and it probably will cause starting issue in the future. So I got my drill here. I'm going to hit that part with the ground with a wire brush, and that should be good. As you can see here, we got a lot of box to unpack, and these are the cheapest of the cheap that I could find online. And we got everything from head gasket, full engine gasket, seals, timing belt, clutch kit, water pump, everything like that. So the first thing we got to do is take apart all the old seal off the engine, and we're going to compare it side by side by these cheaper aftermarket parts. And let's get started. We got a lot of stuff to unpack. Okay, now it's time to remove the engine head, and it's very critical that you remove it in the right torque sequence. So basically it's from outside inward, kind of like a spiral to get it out, and then to install it you do the opposite. Okay, so now the head is off, and looking at the head gasket, it's pretty much beat up. So there's a pin right here to align the head, and there's a pin on this side to align the head as well, which is on the head right now. And the coating of the gasket is worn out, so that definitely need to be replaced. And I think it's OEM. It looks pretty much like OEM. And taking a look at the piston itself, it's a 200,000 mile engine, so it's worn out, but it works fine. Compression is good, so we're good to go. And the cylinder wall, it's nice and smooth, and there's no piston ring stuck or anything like that. So we're good to go on this engine. Now taking a look at the rest of the parts, here's the head gasket again. And these are the seal. There's the rear main seal, front seal, and cam seal. I believe these seals are all original because they're really stuck hard. It was hard to get out, so it's a good sign that it was original, never been changed or swapped. So here's the water pump. I think this was replaced before. I'm not sure 100%, but it looks like a replacement water pump. And this looks to be original as well. It looks like original seal. And these are I believe these are aftermarket. You know what? It has Japan on it. It might be original. I'm not sure 100%. But it has a Japan on it. Oh yeah, Japan on both of them. All right, what you see here is the OEM gasket on this side, and right here is the aftermarket gasket. So this is a full engine gasket, come with the bottom end and the head. And here is a bunch of different gaskets I bought individually. So we're going to compare the two with these, and we're also going to compare it to the OEM side. So first thing first, we're going to compare the head gasket, which I got right here. And let's open this box right here. Okay, the first thing I noticed right away is that the valve cover gasket is blue. I'm not sure why it's blue, but I really do like this color. So we're going to compare this later on. And the head gasket, it's a multi-layer metal gasket and comes with this plastic sheet. I'm going to cut that open. First thing first, by inspecting it, it looks really good. I mean, looks pretty solid to me. Looks just like OEM sort of. Let me see, check the layer thickness. It's 3, 4. So there's 4 layer on this head gasket. And I'm going to compare that to the OEM one, which is, okay, yeah. So the OEM one is 4 layer as well. And the aftermarket one is also 4 layer. I'm going to overlap the 2 gaskets together to make sure all the hole lines up. That's very important. Sometimes they use these gaskets on multiple engine, and sometimes the hole is drilled out completely differently and would starve your engine of oil and then destroy your engine. So most important is to make sure these hole lines up to the original head gasket. We'll check out the fitment real quick. Yeah, putting these gaskets side by side, I don't see any difference at all. They look pretty dang good for the price. And I'm going to use the aftermarket one. It looks pretty good. And all the hole matches and lines up. So that is a win-win. So we're going to try this out. So the next thing we're going to do is compare the rear main seal to the aftermarket one. So this is the one that came off the engine. It's I believe it's OEM because it was stuck on the engine very hard. It was very hard to remove it. So I believe this is OEM. Even though it's used, we're going to still take a measurement and compare it to the new one. And this is the rear main seal that came off the engine kit. And this is the rear main seal that I bought individually. So for the OEM one, the rear main seal is 99.77. Now this is the rear main seal that came off the engine gasket kit. It's 100.51, so it's a little bit thicker, but also the OEM one was used. So we're going to compare this with the other one, the other aftermarket one, which is right here. And that is 100.21. So the aftermarket one is slightly thicker, bigger in diameter, only because this one has been used, so it's shrunk a little bit. But what I'm going to do is use the one which is the thickest one or the biggest diameter. And in theory, that should seal up the most. Now we're going to do the same to the crank seal. This is the used crank seal. OEM one is 50.53. And this is the one that came with the gasket kit, is 50.71, slightly bigger. And this is the additional crank seal I bought, which is 50.65, slightly bigger than the OEM one as well. And I actually bought an additional one, which is black in color, just same as the OEM one. And that one is 50.80. I really like this one because it's slightly thicker than the rest of them. And I think I'm going to use this one for the engine. And now the next thing we're going to do is compare the cam seals. So I have 2 of them here. This is the one that came off the engine. I'm just going to take a measurement of one of them. The other one should be the same. So the used cam seal is 48.11. And the cam seal on the gasket kit is 48.15. So not much difference. It's a little bit bigger. And then I have a cam seal that came off of this brand as well. And that is 48.05. Ooh, that's slightly even smaller. This brand right here for the cam seal, I wouldn't use this because this is slightly smaller than even the OEM used one. But I'll use the cam seal off of this gasket kit. Seems to be pretty good for that. Okay, now we're going to compare the water pump and timing kit from the OEM one versus the aftermarket one. The first thing I noticed off the bat is that these timing component and the water pump is made in China. It says it right on the box, made in China. But looking at it side by side, they look pretty solid, even though it's made in China. The OEM one has the Japan stamp on there. And after like 200,000 miles, still pretty solid and still pretty smooth. And this one is smooth as well. It doesn't spin as freely. That's because this is old, but it feels brand new. Now for the water pump side, Side by side, they look pretty decent. Looking at the back, all right, so I noticed a little bit different. The casting, well, not a casting, but the metal on the water pump side right here is slightly thicker. I don't know what to say other than it's pretty solid on the made in China water pump. Visually inspecting this timing belt, I don't see any crack at all, even though it's like 200,000 mile. Now, let's take a look at the timing belt, the one that's made in China. Looks very solid. Okay, by closely visually inspecting these timing belt, or the new aftermarket one, it's thicker. Somehow it's slightly thicker. Maybe because it's used for a long time, it shrunk a little bit, I don't know. But anyway, this is slightly thicker. So yeah, we're gonna give this a shot too. And this aftermarket water pump and timing kit is made by SKP. That's the brand that makes these. If you wanna check it out, it's SKP. And it does come with gasket and everything as well. Now let's take a look at the manifold gasket. So here's the intake gasket, and here's the OEM intake gasket. So gasket looks pretty good. The exhaust side is a 3-layer gasket, as well as OEM is 3-layer. Yeah, pretty similar to OEM, 3-layer. So that's fine. Now let's take a look at the engine mount. This is the OEM one, and after all that years, it's pretty solid. It's still pretty solid, hard to move, doesn't flex as much. Now this is the aftermarket one. It's made by Anchor, and it's made in Thailand. The good thing about this new engine mount is that it comes with hardware already, so you could use the new hardware. Yeah, we're gonna give this a go as well. Now this is the full engine gasket kit that we talked about earlier, that comes with the blue valve cover gasket. And honestly, it looks pretty solid. Yeah, I kind of like it, and I want to test it out. So we're gonna test all that out. And it even comes with the gasket for the cover of the front of the engine, like these cover right here. It even comes with the gasket for that. So you pull out the old gasket here, which is worn out, and put these new gasket in. How well they fit, I'm not sure yet, but we're gonna give it a go. So here's the clutch kit. This is the cheapest one I could find. It's made by Rhino Pack. And visually looking at these clutch kit, I don't see anything wrong with it. Looks perfectly fine. It looks like it's machined correctly. Yeah, it looks fine. But I know for sure these bearings gonna fail, like they always fail. Yeah, I recommend just go ahead and get a Japanese bearing. They always work better and last longer. But these cheaper bearings, they always fail. I'll tell you that right now. But we're gonna throw it in the car anyway, see what happens. And this is the two cheapest clutch master and clutch slave that I could find. It's like $3 and $5, something like that. So we're gonna give all those a go as well. And here's the oil filter, radiator cap, and spark plug by Bosch. They all look fine to me, so we're gonna use that as well. So next I'm gonna install all these gaskets onto the engine, and then we're gonna get a update on it from 1 week, 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, and a yearly update to see if any of these parts fail at all. So make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel to get those updates. And now we're just gonna install it onto the engine. Before we put all the new parts on the engine, I'm going to try my best to clean all these components right here. And then as soon as it's done, we'll slap everything back into the engine. As you can see, the part is finally clean and is ready to be installed onto the engine. So please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and we're going to put it to the test on the next video. See you then.
ハイパースピードメディア